Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of The Latest Thread. We hope you've all had a great week, and we're happy to have Sharon back with us this time. And today we're going to talk about time management. Um, I'm not going to say I'm a great time manager because I know I'm not, but I think it's going to be neat to hear how each of us manages our time, because we all kind of have different things. Everyone has different things that they have to fit into their time besides just quilting. So I think we'll get started with whether or not each of us thinks that we're a good time manager.
No.
And are you a procrastinator? Would you consider yourself a procrastinator?
Yes. Most definitely. Oh, yeah. If you can delay it till, I don't know, it's due. And it's funny because when you procrastinate, it's like you think it's this hour and a half worth of work. So you push it off and push it off and push it off. And then when you finally do it, it was like 10 minutes of your time.
Yeah, but what if something goes wrong? That's my worry with pushing it to the last minute, and then something goes wrong and that you don't have enough time. It's like leaving for a party at the last second and not planning for traffic, right?
Yeah,
like what if something comes up and it screws up your plan?
Make it work.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same. I always think that, I should do it early, because something always does go wrong. And I always say to myself, I'm not going to let that happen again. And yeah, every
Tuesday happens.
Well, and for me, I consider myself a decent time planner. I am a big list maker, and I break down what it is I have to do. But in regards to procrastination, let's say because I quilt for others, it's a quilt that really, it's just not my thing. So I procrastinate because I don't want to even start with it. Whereas other projects, I'm working on a class project right now, and I started it Monday, figured out the design, but now in my head there's 20 different ways to present it and to film it. And so I was working on it again this morning, changing my mind again. So I'm with Sharon, whereas I definitely have to allow for time for certain projects, for things to go wrong. It's not that they go wrong, but there's always seems to be a better way, a different way to approach it. And so I want to present it in the best way I know how. So definitely the deadline, I guess, is next Tuesday. So I allowed myself extra time. So it all depends on what project it is, really, for me.
Yeah. I don't know. There might be 15 different ways to do it, but I'm going to commit to that one and just get it done. I may say the whole time, I should have went with option 4. But no, we're sticking with option 1. Get it done.
A lot of times other people don't even notice. I guess it depends. I mean, if it bugs you the most, but if other people don't notice that, hey, she kind of cut a corner over here.
I cut all the corners.
No.
right. So you're not a procrastinator, Sharon?
I think I am both. I think I'm both. I don't like to, but I think I do, because we just naturally have this tendency to do the things that we want to do first and put off the stuff that it isn't as fun. So I try to mix it up so that if I have some things that I'm working on that I'm not enjoying so much, that I work some little things in there that do give me that little, I finished this and it was gratifying, and I finished that and it was gratifying. And then you still have something bigger lurking in the background, which is totally okay. But I think that we'd be lying if we all said that we were awesome time management people. It's hard, especially when you run your own business. If you have somebody else telling you you work from 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, and this is your duties today, you get those done. But when you're in control of your own time, it's totally different. Sometimes I am all over the place. Sometimes I'll be doing like 10 different things at once, and you just get overwhelmed and have to kind of dial it back. So I think that we're probably all a little bit of both. At least I know I am.
Do you negotiate with yourself?
In what way? A reward?
A
Like
reward.
incentives?
This row, you can go have a snack. Or if you finish this quilt, then you can work on your project for 2 days. I
suppose so.
negotiate with myself.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, with us, quilting is 100% of our household income. So the motivation is to pay the bills, probably first. And then, all of the stuff that I really want to work on, the really fun stuff. I mean, it's not that I don't get to enjoy the fun stuff I do for my job, but some of the other fun stuff it does get put off because you have priorities, right? So,
Yeah. And I would say I'm kind of a mix because I'm working on the same project as Ava. So I like to get, like, I'm gung-ho in the beginning, and so right now I have all the hard work done. The easy stuff is left, put it all together, whatever. That part I feel like is the easy part. Am I doing that? No, because I could probably sit down and do it in 15 minutes, but I'm like, I have a whole nother week still. I don't need to do that just yet. So that's kind of,
Where I'm different where that's concerned, if I'm that close, I'm going to finish it, whether the deadline's next week or tomorrow,
Well,
But it's much easier, though, to be a good time planner in theory, than it is because, like Sharon said, there's things that, maybe we get distracted by or things that come up, that are important to get done at this time.
Yeah.
But I think it helps me in theory to plan everything out. And I do. My calendar has lots of room. I write every day and check things off, and so because when you work from home or you work for yourself, it's very different, to not get caught up by, let's put a load of laundry in or, do some other things,
I had to laugh at your calendar comment. I used to write in my calendar, but now I just write on Post-its and stick them in my calendar so that I can lift them up and move them to the next day and lift it up and move it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think distraction is a huge thing, especially if you work inside your house. I know a lot of quilters work out, in another location. And I did that for a little bit and I didn't like it at all. Like when I had to go, and it's only next door, but I had to go next door to quilt. It was like a thing. Like I have to get ready to go over. In the winter, I'd have to go turn up the heat. It was just needed to be way too planned. Yeah. And, now I can, start dinner. Well, I can fit one more pass of this quilt in, go upstairs, do that, and then come back, eat dinner, and go back. So it's really, I think it's a hard thing to balance when you're in your own house and you have,
Well, the main thing I think is to know, like Sharon said, what the goals are. In her case, quilting is the family income. So we all have different goals. And I think the main thing is to stay focused on those goals, to not lose perspective, with everything else. And, we do not have, most of us do not have an 8 to 5 job. So how we split up our day to accomplish the goal is really irrelevant, based on everything else we have going on. So, but that's why we don't work from 8 to 5, because if we didn't get X, Y, and Z done at 9 p.m., then I guess we better hustle and still get it done at 11 p.m., so we are in control of, how we accomplish our goal.
Well, yeah, and I think that also makes it very hard to separate because for me anyways, I feel like I I need to always be accomplishing something. Like I just don't not do something. I guess it kills me to not be doing something. Like I can't sit down and watch a movie. I just can't because I have to be. I don't feel like it's accomplishing anything, and I try to not do that, but I can't. So if there's like 10 minutes where I have nothing to do, I'll come. It goes right to work. I might as well get more work done. There's nothing else to do. So it's really, I find working at home is, I mean, it's a bonus, but it's also very, I don't know,
All
it promotes, yeah, a workaholic situation, I think.
Well, and that's the difference, though, between the goals that you want to accomplish for your work and your other priorities or commitments. Let's say in my case, I do want to spend time with my grandchildren. So if they have stuff going on that I want to be part of, then that has to be part of my time management, because I've learned over the years that you cannot be so obsessed with just your work. You have to find the right balance between all of the things. That doesn't mean you have to lose track of your goals. You just have to reorganize them, your plans in a different way. Because you can't just be about work. It's not good, And to get back to your point, Jody, to watch a movie, what's the purpose of that? It's to relax and disconnect. Sometimes I watch some really weird shows because they're mindless and because, most of us, get consumed. And this stuff is always in our head to the point where it becomes overwhelming. You lose sleep because you're consumed with it. So if you watch some silly, ridiculous show, you can disconnect. So Jody, it won't hurt to watch a movie at times.
Oh, I'm sure it wouldn't. But I think that becomes a personality thing too. I mean, yeah, I just don't relax, I guess.
No,
I
you don't
know
relax.
it's a good thing, but I just don't.
Like I have attention deficit. So like I think back to the cruise. Everybody would go after dinner to these 3-hour-long shows. That's like torture for me. To sit in the chair and just do nothing for 3 hours, I'd be like bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think we all have very similar personalities when it comes to that it's really hard to relax. It is hard,
Well, that's why I turn the TV on, because that means sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. That too. There's that.
We're not doing anything. Boom.
Yeah.
That's your body's own way of time management.
Yeah, that's my brain saying, oh, we're not working, we're not thinking. We must be sleeping.
Yay, we get to sleep.
Not much of that going on.
Okay, so I think this is probably a good time to take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about how we actually try, I guess would at this point be the best way to put it, to manage our time wisely.
Hi, this is Andrew with Gamel. Today I'd like to show you the easy way to install and remove your extended throat plate. The first thing we're going to do is set our horizontal and vertical channel locks so the machine doesn't roll around. Then take the groove of the plate and slide it down the hopping foot. Put one hand underneath and with 3 fingers press down on the spring as you push the plate back and wiggle it. It will easily snap into place. Now for removal, the key is to lift the back of the plate up a little bit. Then take 3 fingers underneath the spring, pull the spring towards you, and the plate slides off easily.
Welcome back, everyone. So now let's talk a little bit about how we each prioritize our time, or attempt to anyway. Who wants to start? Nobody?
Why is this such a weird topic?
Well, because, I don't know.
I think it's different for everyone. I think it has a lot to do with your personality style as to what you get your motivation from, right? So I don't think that anybody watching can take anything that we say and go, it has to work for everybody, because you've got to find what
works for
keeps you
you.
moving, right? Like Ava had a good point about the list, and I'm not a huge list maker, but when I feel that overwhelming, like, okay, I'm working on like a dozen things at once right now and your head's just kind of spinning, that's when I'll sit down and make a list and go, okay, take a deep breath, write everything down, and look at, what do I have to do today? What do I have to do this week? What do I have to do this month? And then instantly that takes away some of the, oh, okay, well, here I am stressing about this one thing and I don't even have to even think about it until 2 weeks from now or something like that. So the lists do help.
Well, and the reason why I like to do lists is because there's so many different categories. You know, you have your workload, which is, you know, customer quilts and other commitments, you know, with online classes and things like that. And then there's your personal goals, because even though you have those obligations, you always, I feel, have to, or I have to look ahead. What do I want to accomplish, you know, for myself? What are my personal goals for the future, you know, because things like planning future classes that I want to be able to offer, I have to, you know, plan ahead for those. So it's short-term goals and long-term goals. So if I make lists for each one of those categories, you know, and then break those down in regards to priority, you know, where they need to fall. And then I try to do an outline for some of the bigger ones in order to get, I do. I break
categories and outlines.
Oh my gosh.
She's way.
General idea as to what time commitment
Giving me
they
anxiety.
are all different. I'm not saying that.
Oh, I know, but it's just making my head spin.
For those of us that get up in the morning and go, what am I going to do today? That just sounds.
No.
Right? I mean, it's
I
good,
said
but
that earlier. You have to, when you work for yourself, especially working from home, you have to be a lot more motivated than someone that goes and, you know, clocks in somewhere, because that's what it is. You're there. But, you know.
Well, I don't know. I'm a Post-it girl. Every client quilt gets put on a Post-it, gets stuck in the calendar on the schedule. I have on my computer screen my project Post-its, which is that. It's upcoming classes, online stuff, my GAMO work. Each Post-it has its own little list. But yeah, I used to keep paper lists, but then I lose the paper. So I like the little
I have a notebook specific with different categories.
Oh, I live by a notebook, but there's no category. It's just
Jody's laughing at me. That is just that. She knows me. I do that.
No.
Because I'm a list maker, kind of, but I make the list, even the grocery list, right? I have this big, giant grocery list. I never remember to take the list, ever. Then it becomes like a game, because I get home and look at the list. Did I get everything that was on the list? It's like,
you put your grocery list on your phone.
I have an app on my phone, but sometimes I'm like, I need 3 things. So you'll see me going through the store going, all right, I got the milk. I got the bread. What is this? What is this?
Yeah, what was that thing? And usually that thing that you don't get is the one main thing.
That's why you need to go to the store.
You get a whole bunch of other stuff and you come home with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's everything. I can make a list for jobs, quilts, anything I need to do. And you would think you'd get satisfaction from crossing them off. But yeah, like Karen, I don't even know where that list went. It's like I could have sworn I made a list.
Well, and that's, there's apps available that help you organize. I've tried OneNote because you can literally set up like a notebook with all the different tabs, just like in a binder. I've tried a gazillion different apps trying to see, I spent $50 on a planner, for a few years in a row. I know some of us been there with me.
We all threw out our 2020 planners, right?
I'm using it for doodling.
2020 is
It essentially doesn't matter. You can just use, like Karen said, Post-its or something super inexpensive, because you can spend a fortune and download 50 apps. If you're not, following anything that you put down, then it's pointless. It doesn't help you to follow your goals any better than just using Post-its. So.
It's like exercise equipment. You buy the treadmill, but if you don't get on it.
Well, and I think too, like Ava, you said about, you got to have your whatever, like short term, mid-term,
I didn't say midterm, short and long.
whatever, like that. So I find that if I would make a list, of these are my long-term goals, right? So this is what I want to accomplish in the next whatever. I find that to be very, for me, depressing, right? Because I have to do what I have to do. And if I see those listed things over there and I am not getting anywhere near that thing, then I just feel like I'm not achieving anything. Do you know what I mean?
It stirs my anxiety to see everything.
Yeah. So, I think in my head, I know what my long-term goals are, but I don't want to keep looking at them on the paper, because I'm not getting there at all. Because, in reality, like last year when we were all on the tour, I got so much more accomplished because you were gone so much that you knew when you came home, like, okay, I'm going to be home 2 weeks. So I have to get this stuff done. And I did. Where now it's almost like open-ended. Who knows when we're going to be?
Well, that's because our time was defined by a schedule. And so we knew that during those, we were gone. And the other times, then you fit in whatever else you needed to fit in. So in other words, if you structure your time in a certain way, you're more likely, to be able to, just pretend that your class stuff here and here, this is your schedule. And then,
But for me, no, because it wasn't like I was going to say, guess what? I'm not going on the tour this week. I just didn't get all my stuff done. You know what I mean? You're not going. You have to go. You're going.
Of course, so, but that's my point, though.
I can't pretend, because I know I don't really have to.
With me in Florida, we have the rainy season, right? So I normally always start quilting at 3:00 in the afternoon, and I go till, off and on until 10, 11 o'clock at night. But during the rainy season, it rains every day from 2:00 until 7:00. I know this. I still can't get up in the morning and quilt, because it's not normal for me, to quilt in the morning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if you feel like there's a time of day that is best suited to what your groove is, then, that's what you should do. You shouldn't try to fit yourself into a cookie cutter of, okay, I have to be structured between the hours of 8 and 5. You have to do it. And that's why it's so personal. Everybody has to choose what works for them.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, most people that are quilting, they're creative people. And so I think that a creative person is a very different, not all the same, but it's very different, because you have to feel like you want to do it. You have to be motivated to do it. So that's a big thing,
Creative people are often very pulled away and distracted by the shiny things.
That's true for sure. We get sidetracked easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But but because we know we are that way, I still find that that's why it's important to have things set up, so eventually you get pulled back in. And there's many times that when that happens, even though I have something on my calendar, Karen said she just moves the Post-it note. Well, I just use an arrow on my calendar to the next day or to the next week. But without that basic, structure, it would be even harder because we do get sidetracked, to stay focused. But, I think most of us are deadline driven, and the night before, you have to enter your quilt somewhere. What time was it? Midnight or was it 9 p.m.? So at 11:59, hit enter,
11:59 and 59 seconds, hit enter.
but you know what I mean?
And the internet goes out.
Well,
Or your computer decides to do an update.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess essentially it is everybody has to figure out what works best for them. There is no guideline, for a mold that can be applied
but
to.
so we all, whether you quilt for customers or you're a teacher or you're like, we're traveling, to do the tour, you have customer quilts, whatever. How do you plan that? Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, do you prioritize it and say, okay, well, I'm going to do like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I quilt quilts, and this day I do this, and that day I do that? Or
That's really
I don't.
hard because stuff comes up, right?
right.
I usually block out like a week for a quilt, and I laugh at myself because 9 times out of 10, it's more than a week, which then pushes the next week, but I'll block out the whole week, even if it's a small quilt, which gives me room. So yeah, that quilt took me, all of Monday afternoon and half of Tuesday. That gives me Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for free time. So yeah, do I start the next week's quilt? No, I use my free time for all my other stuff.
Well, and that's super important, if that's how you do it. But, again, I learned that the hard way, where I just would do one customer quilt after another, no time for a break,
Oh, no.
and yes, I'm grateful to have that opportunity. But then I would schedule, my husband said, you got to schedule a week for yourself to do your own stuff. And so I did, thought I'd give it a try. People start calling. Okay, I filled in that week. And I would do that for some time till, I got to the point where, no, this is not working. You have to, because we want to be creative for our own, you schedule that time and stick to it. Whatever that time frame is, you have to stick to it, or you get burned out, quilting for others.
Mhm.
And then the money is not worth it because, I think it probably could affect the quality of your work if you're getting burned out, so nothing is gained.
Yeah.
I know for me, those plans are the best laid plans. I mean, everything just kind of upsets the apple cart and changes everything. But for me, my distraction is the social media, because if you're very active on social media, those little notifications are money, right? Those are somebody asking for information about your services, or can I bring you a quilt? And so one of the small things that I do, that I try to do, that is helpful, not just making the plan to set that time aside, but when I'm doing that, say I've blocked off 2 hours from 9 o'clock till 11 o'clock, I'm going to work on this project. And so I'm going to set a timer on my phone, and my phone's going to go in the other room. So I can't even, and the sound is off. So the only thing I hear is the timer when it beeps. No notifications, no texts, no calls. My computer, my laptop is closed. So I can't walk past it going to switch colors of thread and go, oh, look, there's 14 new notifications. I have to check those, right? Because all of a sudden you sit down and start checking that, and you're down the rabbit hole, and you've just eaten up how much the rest of your time. So not just blocking off the time, but making sure you don't have those other distractions. And if you have a door on your sewing area or your quilting room, close it and tell people, don't come back till 11 o'clock or whatever it is that you've set. You kind of have to be strict about it, right? But the distractions, if you can get rid of those kinds of things and just focus, it helps me anyways.
Yeah. My problem's focusing.
Yeah, the internet is definitely, it really can suck you in, and for a little bit, I was saying, like I would check it in the morning, and then I'd say, no, I'm not looking at it all day. I'm just not, because I'm not getting anything done. You sit down and 5 seconds, you think, oh, I'll just check real quick, and an hour later, and then I would check it at night. But what I found was that all the emails and all of that stuff that builds up all day, then it took way too long. It was the same amount of time, but now I'm sitting there doing that all at once, and now it felt like work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a really tricky thing. I mean,
yeah, if you can carve out, maybe a half an hour at the first of the day to check your notifications and your emails, deal with communication stuff, and then maybe once around the lunchtime break, and then once at the end of the day, that seems to help me to divide it into smaller chunks.
yeah. Yes, definitely. I mean, how do you schedule your quilts? Do they come in and you do them as you get them?
They're all in order of arriving. And we have we have 2 long arms and 2 different schedules, because Jason does all of the edge to edge, and then I do all of the custom and some edge to edge, depending on how much work there is. So he'll have like a whiteboard calendar that he can see a couple of months in advance, and 1 quilt a day. Whether or not he does 1 quilt a day or not, that leaves room for, oh no, we have and it happens to everyone, oh, we had a tension problem, now I have to pick something out, or something comes up, life, and it doesn't happen. So we just put 1 quilt a day for edge to edge. And then if he gets caught up and he gets to have Friday off, then great. But that's a good question though, because there's a lot of people that talk about, if they're just quilting just the one person, how do you manage the customer edge to edge and the customer custom work? And when I was just one machine, I used to, maybe a week and a half to 2 weeks, and I'd pound through a whole bunch of edge to edge and just smash them through, and then work on a custom job for a week to 2 weeks, and then push them off, instead of trying to do one and then another one, because you can't put your custom ones in the same queue that you put your edge to edge ones in, right? Because that'll really screw up your time. Then all of a sudden somebody comes in for an edge to edge and you're telling them 4 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you can have, if you have it on a calendar, whether it's a whiteboard or your written calendar or Post-its, then you can have a glance and go, okay, well, realistically, I can't do this until that day. So it's nice to be able to see kind of a snapshot.
Yeah.
Guys.
I think one of the biggest problems I always had was that I would look at the list and be like, I don't want to do the one that's next. I want to do that one about 4 down because it's easier or it's faster and I would always, then I'd find myself with nothing left but the ones that were going to take forever.
And then back to back.
Yeah. And I try to tell myself, do all the hard ones first. But yeah, never happens.
Yeah, and I try to stick, especially with the custom, I, like Karen, block out a whole week, or depending on what it is. And for the custom, I do go in sequence, and I do try to stick with the edge to edge, which I get fewer of than the custom, to still keep them in the same order. But if I have 2 machines, obviously I'm gonna even pull the edge to edge out of order, because I have the ability to do them on the other machine, So, but if you have 2 machines, then you also I don't feel as rushed knowing, that it's okay. I don't have to feel pressured knowing that this custom quilt's going to take 10 days and other things are piling up, because I can even load another custom on the other machine if I want to rather work on that, because it's more fun, then I can switch back and forth. I've done that also. So.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I had two loaded, so I have a thing with that. Like I would feel like too stressed. Do you know what I mean? Now, oh my gosh, now I'm looking at two things I'm gotta get done. Even like my zippered leaders, I don't use that. I just can't.
No.
Because if I take it off, like my own, it would make sense to do my own that way, because I could take it off and then put something else on. But I know if I take it off, I'll just keep putting something else and something else. You know what I mean? And not putting mine back on.
Oh, I
Yeah.
take it go from the one machine to the other machine. Because like if I'm using my plus for something of mine, and I get in an edge to edge, I'll just unzip it, throw it to the side, throw the edge to edge up, throw it on the other machine, and finish it over there.
Yeah, we use our zipper leaders a lot too.
Yeah, I just can't bring myself to do it because I know mine would never get back on there.
I'm curious how you guys deal with situations. Like I know how I deal with it, but I want to know what you guys think. When people ask you to do something as a rush job, how do you deal with it? I charge time and a half, just like you get paid at a job. You charge time and a half because I don't bump other people's work in order to do it. I actually cut into my own time. So I charge time and a half for that, especially if it's, and you know what? Usually it's like the first time that customer's been to you and you never see them again.
Yeah. You've been
if it's a regular, then I may not charge quite as much, but what do you guys do for that?
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, I've had it happen a few times, but it truly was, regular customers, and I did not charge them. But if they did it again, I felt like maybe they're just wanting to get ahead of everybody else, and it's really not a rush job. So because they were informed the last time, now they're getting charged the extra charge. So I guess that's not very consistent, but I guess you have to know the people, and base it on that. Because I don't want to feel that they can take advantage of me and my time either. So.
You can't, and I had that one situation where there was this one lady, and I've never seen her again. It was years ago, and she actually dropped off during supper time, and she said to me that time and a half, we figured out how much it was going to cost, and she's like, wow, that's a lot. And I pointed over to my husband and kids sitting at the dinner table without me, and I said that's what I'm taking away from right now. To do this quilt for you that you're wanting done last minute because you didn't plan.
Right, that's exactly right. They didn't plan.
Yeah, you've got to value your time. And that could be getting into a whole other topic, but I was just curious about how you manage.
Yeah, time and a half.
I never have ever. No, because usually I try to I don't want to take it. So usually I would be like, well, what do you want done? If you want all over, sure, I can do it because that's
easier to work in than a custom one for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I did have one lady who I met her to deliver a quilt, and she's like brought this quilt with her, and she pulls it out. Can I do it? And I'm like, well, what do you want on it? Well, I said, when do you need it? And she needed it for the next 2 days. 2 days from that day. And I'm like, well, can I meander it? Pretty big? I said, all right. I'll take it. And I met her back there exactly 24 hours later.
She give you
that was easy. I went home and I was done in no time at all. So, yeah, it's the worst, though, is when they want a rush job and you call them.
And they don't come.
Mm-hmm.
Got it done. And they're like, oh, I have stuff. I won't be able to come till next week. It's like, what? You told me you needed it.
So you broke your back to get that done for them, and they didn't even, That's where that fee comes in.
That's where they get a star next to their name.
Well, and it's the same thing too, they bring me a quilt and I ask them what when do you need to have it back? And they tell me, no rush at all. It's not for anything specific.
Your
So
phone's
then
on Monday.
I add it into where it's gonna fit in regards to my schedule. And if it's a custom, it could be 3 months down the road, whatever it is, the following week, start calling, emailing, texting. How's my quilt coming? It's still sitting in the bag.
You're good. I take a picture and go, look, right where you left it.
And, so I finally respond, I let you know it would be about 3 months. You said it wasn't for anything specific. Well, and that can really screw up your time management, but you have to be firm. You had the conversation, you were very clear in your communication, so you can't let them railroad you, when you had an agreement, and that's really something you learn over time, that you can be firm because you discussed it. It's not like it was a secret.
I think you have to learn the difference between they're bugging you because they want it now sooner, or they're just excited because they know you do good work and they're excited to see what you're doing with their quilt, and they're just, hey, how's it going? We have to learn the difference between those two things and not let their excitement for the finished product make us feel rushed and change things.
I have a few years back, I have a couple of customers who are always just, they've been customers for years. And if they needed something to hurry, I would do it. I'd do anything they, whatever they needed. If they needed it in a rush, I would do it. And then I decided to make this quilt, and I needed a label, and I wanted it to be embroidered. And I don't have that. Well, I do on my sewing machine, but I would have to learn how to do it and everything else. So two of these particular women, who I, on multiple occasions, squeezed them in, did their stuff on a drop of a hat, and I called them, and I said, I'll pay you. Could you make me this label? Oh, I'm kind of busy. I have card club and bowling. And I'm like, what? Like just this 5-minute thing. And the lady's like, well, I could get to it maybe in a month. And I thought, okay, you're checked off the list, because no more squeezing you in. Because, and it was like eye-opening. I almost felt like, gosh, was I a sucker or what? I just took, anything. Crazy.
Yeah.
Learn from experience, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I think we kind of covered our not so managed, right? Because we get all of our stuff done, don't we?
Yeah.
That's why there's got to be a deadline, or else it's never getting done. Yeah.
I mean, so hopefully you may have gained some kind of organization.
Or you've learned as to what not to do.
Or maybe you're much more organized and you could give us some tips.
Because
I can tell anyone.
People tune in wanting to hear all these answers.
Right.
Surprise!
We're human.
I think. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just joking. I said I keep Post-its in business.
Karen's Post-it organization program. Okay, so I mean that's, whether we sound that organized or not, I think we are kind of organized, because we do get done what we
get it done. Yeah.
And I think if you're not very organized, it, right?
Sure.
So we all work in our own weird little way to get done what we need to get done. And, I've bought books on organizing your time, and I've never even looked at them. They're on the bookshelf.
You didn't
Organize your
schedule
put-
that.
by
Put some
size.
time aside in your calendar to read those books.
So if nothing else, maybe you will find our strategy for managing our time entertaining, I guess.
There you go.
And we look forward to seeing you next week. If you have any topics that you would like for us to discuss, please head over to one of the Facebook groups and hashtag the latest thread. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.